And we're live.
Yay!
Hi, everybody.
Hi, guys. Welcome back. Hi, Daddy, if you're watching. Yeah, get started, I guess. Okay, so whoever's on right now, can you give us a thumbs up in the chat if you can hear us? Someone? I just tried the mic, something different, so. Anyone? Don't be shy. Okay, so to get started, we are going to go over just the usual, unfortunately, Corona stuff first. So let me move my screen around.
We try to get that out of the way as quickly as possible so we can get to your questions and go over what you guys asked us and get to the real Q&A.
Real stuff. If you have questions, please put them in the chat box. If you cannot hear us, something happens, just put a little comment, please, for us to know what's going on. I guess we should introduce ourselves.
Let's introduce ourselves.
So for those of you that don't know who we are, my name is Tiami with Expat Launcher.
And I'm Yanis, also with Expat Launcher.
And what we do is we assist expats looking to move to Germany from pre-move to arrival to all the bureaucracy in the middle to getting settled. So filling out the forms and appointments and telling you what to do, where to do, all of that fun stuff, okay?
Health insurance. We also have a license as health insurance brokers, so we can also consult you on that. And we have a bunch of free and for paid services. So if you're interested in that, then check out our other videos, subscribe to our YouTube channel, send us an email, and we'll be happy to get in touch with you.
Awesome. Get all that stuff out of the way in the beginning, right?
All right.
Okay, let's get started. So
the plug.
Yeah. So we will get started right now with Corona, everyone's favorite. Again, if you have questions throughout, not pertaining to what we're talking about, something different, or if it pertains to what we're talking about, please put it in the chat box so we can answer it for you right now. So, Corona. Blah. I'm so ready not to talk about Corona anymore, but we all know things are changing really quickly, not just with Germany and the US, worldwide. So for anyone interested with Corona information, we will link down below a few useful links for just the Germany side of stuff that's happening. Right now, focusing on US citizens coming into Germany. The US is still on the high risk. Nothing has been set in place, knock on wood, to necessarily restrict travel. It is recommended not to travel. If you are coming, especially in the next few weeks, then just please keep checking the websites that we link below. Right now, for vaccinated US passport holders, you can enter, but you have to do a digital registry card, which we'll link below. And we highly, highly recommend to get a negative test before you come, more so for airlines than customs, especially if you already have your vaccination card. It's just worth to get it to be safe. Any layovers, the airline, wants to see it, the country you're, connecting through, who knows? So it's just save yourself the hassle and get that beforehand.
Might not be needed, but it's officially not required to have a test, but
if you have the vaccination, yeah. And I think most people, especially who are top clients, they've been vaccinated, so you are safe. Any questions about Corona, please let us know. For the sake of this live call, we're mostly focusing on US citizens coming in, but I know South Africa, India, a lot of countries have been removed off the high risk area, so that's really, really great. We have expats coming from different countries as well, so I think that's a good sign, hopefully. Let's see, quarantine. So if you are coming into Germany and proof of vaccination, you can waive kind of the quarantine part. However, just check regulations right before you come, and of course when you're here, because it does change. But proof of vaccination typically will require no quarantine.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. Okay, so let's jump into questions. Hi. And if, I was just telling you, so with South Africa coming off the high risk group, so yay. Okay, so if you guys have questions, please put them in the chat box. And I'm assuming you guys can hear us, so no one said it otherwise. Okay, let's see. So how recent must the test be? For those of you getting it, even if you don't need it, the PCR test is typically 72 hours before, and the antigen test is about 48 hours before.
Yeah.
Okay. Antibody tests are not necessarily considered to allow to use. So just make sure when you are getting the test that you are checking with the place that you're getting the test done that it is approved for travel. So antigen test and or PCR test.
Yeah.
Questions?
Okay, so the proof of vaccination. If you have a foreign proof of vaccination, you might run into issues in Germany if you want to go to a restaurant. I know a lot of places don't check, but those that do will maybe be confused if they see a foreign vaccination, especially if it's in a language other than English. Then they could get really confused. So in that case, you can go to your local pharmacy, and most pharmacies will do that, and they will then transfer. So once you're in Germany, they will then transfer that foreign immunization record and issue you a German one. You should, when you do that, bring your passport if you already have the address registration and the residence permit also. And then you can either just bring the German paper, the German transfer with you, or you could also transfer it into the Cove Pass app, which is the digital version of your record.
Yeah, so typically what they'll do and what we've seen is they'll ask you if you live in Germany. You'll say yes, you're supposed to provide the address confirmation or proof of residency, meaning your permit card. A lot of pharmacies aren't asking for the resident permit, but the address confirmation is needed. And yeah, like he said, you take your US information certification in, they'll need a little bit of time to convert it into the German one. They'll give you a piece of paper with the QR codes for each dose, and then you take that and scan it into the app of your choice. We recommend the Cove Pass, I think it's called Cove Pass app. There are a few different ones that you can use, but the Corona Warning app, there's a few differences with them. We just recommend the Cove Pass app because you can use it for multiple people if you have multiple people in your household, and there's a little bit more limitations with some of them. The Luca app, which I just found out actually, is another one you'll see in a lot of places with restaurants, that it's not something that's been federally checked, I guess, but which is weird because it's used kind of everywhere in restaurants. But I still go around with my paper. I don't want to use an app, but to each his own. Okay, so let's move past Corona stuff if we can, and let's start answering some questions that have recently come in. For those of you joining, please, if you have questions, leave them in the chat box and we'll answer them for you now. Okay, so can you explain the difference between a visa and a residence permit?
Okay, yes, I can. So that's a common misconception. A lot of people just talk about getting the visa when actually there is a difference in German law between a visa and a residence permit. The visa is a document issued by the German embassy abroad. So in your home country, in South Africa, for instance, or other countries, the embassy does issue a visa which allows you to enter Germany. Some countries don't need a visa. For instance, Americans, Canadians, South Koreans, Israelis, 8 countries in total that don't need a visa to enter. But every foreigner who's not a EU citizen who comes to Germany needs a residence permit. And that is a document that allows you to stay in Germany. And that document is issued by the foreigner's office within Germany. So visa allows you to enter and is issued by the embassy. Residence permit allows you to stay, issued by the foreigner's office.
Yeah, which actually leads into, I don't want to scroll down too many with email, the difference. So someone asked, what is the, what's the question? Where is it? Oh, is a work permit the same as a resident permit? So that I get asked a lot. And the resident permit allows you to stay in Germany for a reason. So whatever that reason is, you're the law guy. You can, go into more detail if you want, but the reason to stay is the resident permit. So if you have a reason to stay for freelance, that's going to be your permission to work. If you're an employment, an employee and you have an employment permit, that's your work proof. Same for students or language lessons, right?
Yeah.
So your permit allows you to do whatever you've applied for. Okay, and go scroll back up. Let's see. Okay, so next question. Right threw us off, right? There we are. What are the steps for applying for a resident permit in Germany?
Okay, so first you need to check whether you need a visa or not. So there's 8 nations that don't need a visa. And obviously if you're an EU citizen or Swiss citizen, you don't need a visa. Then you can just enter without that. If not, then you have to apply for that first, go through the embassy in most cases. Then, once you're in Germany and you want to apply for the residence permit, either to switch your visa or because you entered without a visa, you will need to find a place to live. That's the most important. Before you have a place to live where you can register, you basically don't exist in Germany. So you need an apartment. It can be an Airbnb or whatever, but it's just important that your landlord allows you to register that address. That's the most important step, and before you do that, you legally don't exist in the eyes of German authorities.
Sure.
Then, so you get that, you make an appointment, register the address, and then is the time to prepare for the residence permit. You need to get all your documents, and that will depend on the type of residence permit you want to have. One thing that's always needed, very important, is the health insurance. So there's a lot of differences in that, and it will depend on what kind of work you do. So there's a lot of things that you can do wrong, especially on the topic of health insurance. There's a lot of misinformation out there. So when in doubt, hey, another plug, contact a health insurance broker like myself, and then we can really walk you through the details and different options that are out there. And then the other thing will be, especially for those of you that want to work, is to prove those work offers, whether it be freelance or employment contracts or whatever it may be. But those are typically the 2 most important things for your residence permit.
And I think it's interesting because I hear so many, on Facebook it says this, and on Facebook someone said this, and there's so many variables to someone's different permit that you have to be very careful and take Facebook groups or maybe some blogs that are affiliate linked that are saying these things with a grain of salt, because everyone's case is different. You don't know how that person entered and what type of insurance they needed for the reason of their permit. So, and the cities are different, right? Visa offices take different insurances. So you have to be very careful with that. But yeah, in short, that's what you do. Register, organize, prepare, go to your appointment, and then wait for it. That's the downside right now, is everything is so backlogged. That actually goes to my next question. I did not plan that. Mm-hmm. Why? And literally I'm getting emails. Why are offices so backlogged? I'm sorry. They're backlogged. It's crazy. And this goes back to last year when the shutdowns happened. They're overwhelmed. They're reduced staff. We're still in the middle of a pandemic. Things are changing.
They're also using that as an excuse, in my opinion. Like
Sorry,
it's an easy excuse to say like, oh, sorry, Corona, we can't do it any faster. But yeah.
But we're at the mercy of the offices, right? I mean, we do partner with a lot of them where we can have direct access to email them, but they are still slow. So most offices aren't taking walk-ins. You might find some that are, but yeah, it's just things are slower right now overall.
Yeah.
So I wish we had different news. I wish we had a magic ball to explain it. But I mean, even cities we see that you can get an appointment usually fairly quickly or process fairly quickly, they may wait 3 or 4 months. And that's not to deter anyone or scare anyone. It's just the cities are very different. So some will try to get you in as quickly as possible, but it still takes long to process. Others will process very quickly, but still will take a few months to get the appointment in front of them. So they all do vary, unfortunately, right now. Okay, next question. If you guys have questions for those who joined, please, exactly.
Yeah.
Everywhere. It's the same. I was telling someone the other day that, for example, for the US, you know, if someone comes in here, you know, to Germany for 90 days and stays past their 90 days without applying, they were so confused as to why they would be illegal. Well, it'd be the same if maybe going to the US and overstaying your tourist stay, you would be illegal. So yeah, bureaucracy is everywhere. Will follow us everywhere, right? Okay, so a question we had was, again, why does it take so long to find jobs? Do you want to answer this or do you want me to answer this?
Maybe you do.
You're the German, you would be like, it does it everywhere, right? Any job takes a long time to find. But no, I mean, again, it's going back to, let's talk about freelancers, right? For teaching. Anywhere. I mean, in your home countries, if you're lucky to find a job in the first few days of applying, that's pretty good, right? It just, you're in a new country, new language, we're still in the middle of a pandemic, schools are coming back from summer break. It's just going to take a little bit of effort. But I can assure you, if you put in the effort to find the jobs, you will find enough jobs to get started. It may not be that perfect teaching job that you've always wanted with enough hours to get by, but you will find enough teaching or schools rather that will be interested in working with you if you put in the effort. So I don't think it takes so long. Some people do, but I don't think 2 weeks of looking is a long time, to be fair.
Yeah.
I think you need to put in the effort for it. Okay, next question.
Okay, as a freelancer, do I pay out of pocket for things like taxes, health insurance, etc.? Yes. So you will be responsible for your taxes and also for health insurance. That comes out of your own pocket. Good news is health insurance is tax deductible, at least for the most part, not to get into too much details, but like roughly, depending on what insurance you get, between 90 and 100% of it is tax deductible. So you will get that money back, or you will pay less taxes based on that. But you have to organize it yourself, and just in general, as a freelancer, you're responsible for more things than an employee. That's you have more freedom, but you also have more responsibilities. And taxes, yeah, no one's going to remind you. Generally, if you pay annually, then once a year you have to submit your tax report, and no one else is going to do it for you, and you need to set some money aside. Whereas as an employee, you still have to pay your own taxes, but your employer makes it easy and takes that money already out of your paycheck. So that money is already with the finance amt, and you don't have to deal with it. It still comes out of your pocket, but you don't have to take care of the paperwork.
Same with health insurance, right? Health insurance and some deductions.
Correct.
Depends on what you have.
But
yeah, so employment, I think, is, or even students with paying, depends on how they
students still have to do it themselves, but it's lower. They pay lower amounts for health insurance. They get cheaper rates, and employees or only pay half of the regular rate because the employer is required to pay 50%.
Yeah, which is nice. So in short, freelancers, yes, those things are your responsibility. Taxes, paying health insurance, but like Jonas said, with deductions, work with a tax accountant come tax season to make sure that you are taking out those deductions that you can. For example, health insurance.
And that's the price for the freedom that you have, that you can set your own hours and do holidays whenever you want and things like that. But you also have more responsibilities.
Yeah. Okay, so a question came in, as a freelancer, when do I file taxes? Is it in the beginning of the year like US? It's not actually. So what's interesting about this is it's in typically the summer around July 31st. It's changed a little bit because of Corona sometimes. They've given extensions, but the tax season typically starts January 1st until July 31st or whatever it may be for Germany. US is still though.
This year, like you said, is changed also because of Corona. Not a perfect excuse. I don't know why it takes longer to prepare your taxes during Corona, but
especially we're all home, right?
Yeah,
everyone's home.
But you have time until October, end of October this year. But generally, it is July.
31st.
And that's when you. So, for instance, for 2020, you would have to hand in your tax statement, your tax report by July or this year, October. If you don't file for an extension, it's pretty easy to get an extension if that's what you want to do.
Yeah, so what a lot of people do is because of US, you need to figure out how much you've made here and organize it. You can start getting everything prepared. You could file early if that is of interest to most people, to prepare what you've made and deducted in Germany first to be able to do your US taxes in time for April 15th. However, as an expat, you can check with your tax accountant or your advisor that's helping you. Living abroad, if you pass the bona fide or physical test of living abroad, then you do get an automatic 2-month extension. So it's until June, whatever that may be, June 15th or something. So yeah, a little trick to the system, right? Prepare before it's due to do your US taxes. Good question though. Okay, and that's to US citizens, mind you. So most countries don't tax their citizens, just so US citizens, thank you US, you tax your citizens abroad. Nice part is we do have a tax treaty with Germany, so unless you're a high earner in Germany, you are needing to file, there may not be anything that you need to pay for US taxes. So you are going to be tax responsible or liable in Germany.
Yeah. So you have to file twice, but at least only pay once, unless you make more than 100,000 per year.
Yeah.
So yeah, well, that's the US tax system.
Okay, so next.
Sure. Thank you for the question.
Yeah, good question. Next question. As a freelancer, did we say this already? We kind of talked about the other stuff. As a freelancer, do I get paid for time off, sick time, or vacation time?
Yeah.
Did we do it? No, we talked about. Did we talk about it?
Yeah.
Let me just answer it again. No. Employment, yes. You'll have a contract employment where you get some time off and vacation and all these things. But for freelancers, it's the same, going back to what are you responsible out of pocket for? It's the same for holiday, sick time, and vacation.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which sounds very negative, right? You have to pay for everything, you know, but there are many perks of being a freelancer. So I'm not trying to discourage anyone by any means. Okay, so next question. Once I have been approved for my resident permit, how long does it take to get my card? Good question.
About 4 to 8 weeks. So that's the standard time that it takes them to print your little ID card. And some offices will mail it to you, which is obviously very convenient, as long as you have your name on the mailbox. Very important. Very important. We had that with clients where they forgot to put their name on the mailbox, and then that card never gets there, and then you lost your card, and that's a huge mess. You might need to do the application again.
Okay, yeah.
So it is convenient to have it sent to you. Just make sure your name's on the mailbox, or in some cities they require you to pick it up. Then it's more work, but it can't get lost. So
yeah,
pros and cons.
Yeah. So what happens typically is when you go to the final appointment. So when you go to the final appointment, what happens is you do drop off your passport photos, take fingerprints, you pay. At that time, they're going to order your resident permit card. And what happens at that point is you go home, you wait for it, you get this nice, fancy, confusing letter in the mail about a PIN and all of this stuff. And that's kind of your cue that in the next 10 to 14 days, depending on what you've arranged with them, if they're going to mail it to you or if you have to go back in, once you get this nice little letter that's a PIN letter, it's your cue that your card's almost ready, right?
Yeah.
We always say 10 to 14 business days because what happens is while the Berlin central office the printing center is mailing you that PIN letter, they're also mailing the authorities your permit card. Once the authorities get your permit card, they have to verify it, put it in the system, create their own little supplemental sheet that goes with it, and then they will either mail it to you or you go in. So that's kind of your cue if you, you get the PIN letter. Next question.
Two questions.
So
I love it. You guys have been active.
So for one, hi guys, I have a note. I got my tax ID. Yes, I have to email you. Does that mean my visa is being processed? No. So you should have got that a little bit earlier, but they're just slow. It's slowing that off the authorities in that town. So when everybody registers their address, you will receive, typically it's in maybe 4 weeks. I've seen it very quickly and I've seen it up to 2 or 3 months, your tax ID. So that everyone in Germany will have a tax ID.
Yeah.
Correcto?
That's correct, yeah.
So what happens?
First letter that you receive after you're born.
Yeah, right. They will find you. You're born, first piece of mail is a tax ID. That's different. So in your case with a tax ID, that's something everyone should keep. When you're communicating with the tax office, that's your referral number, I guess, kind of how you can say who you are. But it does not mean, does not mean that it's your permit related to your permit. So it will be something different.
Yeah.
Yeah. What was the other question?
The other one, doesn't that depend on the insurance taken by the freelancer? I think that refers to if you have to pay for it yourself. No, it does not. So actually, let me rephrase that. So exactly, yeah, that's a good one. So in general, freelancers have to pay for their insurance 100% upfront. They then later can tax deduct it when they do their tax statement. The only exception to the rule is the KSK. That's the Künstlersozialkasse, the artist insurance. So only for artists, not every freelancer, but artists can apply to get into the KSK. It's a pretty long process, takes about 6 to 12 months. But if you're approved for that, then the KSK will pay 50% of your health insurance, and you only have to cover the other 50. But other than that, you have to pay it by yourself.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's differences in pricing. Some insurances are cheaper and some are more expensive. Some insurances are better than others, but it comes out of your pocket.
Unfortunately, right? Good questions, guys. Keep them coming. For those of you, if anyone joined, if you have questions, please put them in the chat box. We will be finishing up here shortly. We only have a few more questions to go through, so we don't want to keep you guys all night because we could probably go through, there's so many questions we could answer. But okay, next question. How do I know what I can do in Germany based on my resident permit? I think we kind of answered this earlier, right? Did we answer this?
Yeah. So you can stay in Germany. That's what a residence permit means. First and upfront, you can stay, you can exit Germany, you can re-enter Germany for as long as it's valid. And then when it comes to work, it really depends on the title. So with a freelance residence permit, you can do freelance work. As an employee, you can work only for that specific company. If you have an unlimited work permit, you can do any type of work in Germany that you want. That's, for instance, for dependents. And then students typically can only do a limited amount of hours of employed work. So those are kind of the differences with what you can and can't do on your permit. That will depend on the exact type of residence permit.
And on every permit, there is a law code that's on the actual permit card, and then you get a supplemental sheet, Zuzelblatt. Zuzelblatt. You can say it, you're the native, but you get a supplemental sheet that will have a description of what you are necessarily allowed to do. Now, it doesn't necessarily tell you everything you're not allowed to do. You are supposed to understand it, the law, and figure out and be mindful of that. But each one is very different. So you just have to understand your permit card. If you have questions on your permit card, obviously our clients will understand front, side, backwards, up, down, what they can and cannot do, how to understand their permit card. We will explain that. Yeah, I'm like overly cautious. Like, you can and can't do this. So for our clients, we do explain that for you. But if you are someone that you're listening in, that you're not a client, you just got your permit or you have it, you just want to know kind of the ins and out, you can email us and ask us. We also do free consultation calls. So that would be kind of a good time to ask in those. Yeah. Good. Okay.
Is that our last question?
We have, let's see. Yep, we have here one more.
So we received the question how much your net income will be. So how much money you'll have in your pocket.
Is this for employment, you think, or?
I don't know.
Employment?
It will be fairly similar, but yeah, it does make a difference. And disclaimer up front, we're not tax accountants, blah, blah, blah. We don't give tax advice, yada, yada, yada. Just as a good ballpark figure, so you know how much will you actually have in your pocket. There are certain income calculators where you can put in your gross income that you will be making, and then it will spit out how much taxes you will have to pay, because obviously the more you make, the higher your tax bracket will be. And maybe we just put that link in the chat, and then
sure, and I can also link it below if we need.
Yeah, that's good. And then on there, yeah, you can just calculate how much you will have in your pocket. Obviously, depends on various factors like health insurance and stuff, but that will give you a good ballpark figure.
A good ballpark figure. So don't come to us and go, I didn't make exactly this amount. So yeah, it just gives you kind of a ballpark. Especially for employment, I think it's a little bit easier to understand for employment because you know your gross amount typically with your contract.
Freelancer does change.
Freelancer changes, so it's a little bit more difficult. Okay, guys, so we don't want to keep you. If you have questions, feel free to put them in the chat box. For any client that's on, we do have our client call tomorrow, so I'm looking forward to seeing everyone on there. Yeah, we will be here live next month. TBD on the date. We will inform everyone. Awesome. Typically, yeah, 3-4 weeks after this one. We will post it on Instagram, Facebook, so please follow us, subscribe.
Yes, please subscribe, leave a like, that helps us a lot. And
even if you don't, just like, please, no. And if you have questions, feel free to email us at any time. info@expatlauncher.com.
And our homepage is expatlauncher.com.
Okay, guys. So thank you so much for joining. We really appreciate it. Your questions were really, really good. So thank you very much.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we'll see you next month.
Sounds great. Take care, guys.
Bye.
Stay healthy.